Shohei Ohtani and his interpreter, whoever was gambling, someone was gambling over there, and money was coming out of Shohei's account and going to
gambling and losing.
Bookmaker.
Let's be
Gambling
clear.
and losing.
They was not winning because if they was winning, we wouldn't have heard about this. Shohei would have been quiet. They wouldn't have heard nothing about this if they was winning. That's the biggest part. They was losing. A whole lot of losing.
Big dollars.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Pickup Game on the JeffJSays YouTube channel. You already know the vibes. Like this video if you love what you're hearing. Comment, subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. And I got one of my friends in the building, my brother. You see him on MSG Networks, MSG Fam, Action Network, NBA Bet, the No Ketchup Pod for the real ones. My guy, Sean Little. Sean, what's going on, bro? How you feeling?
Jeff J, what's up, baby? I appreciate you having me through, man. Very much looking forward to catching up, talking about the most current news, talking shop, man. This is what it's all about. I appreciate you having me through.
You already know, man. There's been a lot going on, a whole lot. We was talking about it a little bit off camera. It's too much going on. Actually, Loki, is too much going on. But when there's a lot going on, you get the little conversation. You know what I mean? You see what I did? You get the little conversation when the lot is going on. We're going to get into it right now. Let's talk about March Madness, college hoops. This is the time when grown adults get upset, irrationally upset at teenagers for messing up their bets and not winning when they're supposed to, busting their brackets and all of that. But I laugh because I saw, you see Chicago Flow on his handles everywhere where you get the internet. You find him there. You had an ill tweet, and I was really laughing about it when you had said, if you take Hamlin out the equation, a vast majority of college basketball is pretty much unwatchable, brutal hoops. You said that. It was like right in the midst of the round of 64. How are you feeling now with, let's start with the men's. Have you enjoyed it? Has your stance changed since that tweet?
Well, Jeff, let's be clear. I didn't just come up with that watching it this year on my couch. It's been like that for quite some time now when we're talking about college basketball and college hoops in general. Listen, if you take gambling out of the equation, I'm not watching BYU. I'm not watching Grand Canyon. Actually, they're probably one of the funner squads, Grand Canyon. But like Duquesne, Northwestern. Like, if you go back and look at that first round matchup for Northwestern, I actually had plus 4.5. They got it done. But it's just horrific ball. A lot of people like the pageantry. And if you talk to a guy that or a girl that's completely on the opposite side of me, it's always, well, they rotate and they play defense and they're running sets and
pure hoops.
It's like pure. Please spare me. Pure and someone responded that to me and I just wrote back. I said, pure hoops is another phrase for horrific basketball because I'm talking about just on quality of hoops. And I know Tuesday night, Charlotte in Portland to play the Blazers isn't the best basketball either. But this is supposed to be the top level. This is the NCAA tournament. These are the people competing for the title, and it's some of the worst basketball you can watch on television. Is it fun? Sure. You get to see teams that you don't necessarily watch, stuff like that. But overall, if I'm not gambling on Duquesne, Northwestern, followed up, but Jeff, the very next game is BYU, NC A&T. I'm not watching any of those. So, yeah, that's a fact. Maybe when we get to the Final Four, could be a little different story. Elite Eight, North Carolina, Arizona, those type of matchups are better. But a vast majority of college basketball is nonsense.
Yeah, I feel like you get those takes from people who either go to a high level, a Power 5 Division I school whose team is there every year. Shout out to Hofstra. We got to win a tournament to get in. Right? My school got to win a tournament. So it's like once a cycle, we get a team in, and hopefully we go on a run like NC State or Grand Canyon or one of them teams. This also feels like tradition. You work in corporate America, March Madness comes around, you throw in your money, you do the brackets. It's something that you do, just like appointment TV, Sundays NFL, March Madness. This is the time where you become a part of this cultural viewing of basketball, right? And it's not so much. I watch it for two things. I watch it, one, because I'm either doing brackets or I'm doing a March Madness Survivor pool. So I have a vested interest in BYU getting me eliminated on day one. Now, I said,
Right.
if you are from the state of Utah,
AKA you're gambling.
Right.
The bracket, like
100%.
AKA you're gambling.
100%.
Like,
but I
did you
do
see
like.
did you see the guy that had the Yale sweater on? That was kind of good. Like, bro, the pageantry. He went in his closet and grabbed his great grandfather's Yale sweater, and it's like, yeah, let's go Yale and put it on. I get that, but when we're talking about pure basketball, stop trying to sell me this. Sell me the other stuff. Sell me the cheerleaders. Sell me the band. Sell me the bracket. Don't tell me this is like great basketball, because it's just not.
It's the college experience. It's the college experience. You relive your glory days. And you're also, you tune in for the upsets. On the men's side, at least, right now, you tune in for the upsets. You want to see the impossible happen. And it does tie back to making a bet. You're betting that a team from a lower seed is going to knock out a higher seed when what was the team? The Maryland, Baltimore County, UMBC. When they went on their run, when they got Virginia out of here and they went on their run, that was unprecedented. So you're tied into storylines based on upsets on games that are lower tier basketball because they're kids and they're nervous and they're playing on the stage. So those pedigree teams, like you'll see like a UConn, a Houston, those teams, they've been here before. They got the system. Gonzaga, Sweet 16 them every time, guaranteed Sweet 16 because they have a system. They have older players that have experienced it before. And that's where you see the highest level of hoops. Everything else it's like watching a game in the park. And you see one team that stacked all of the weekend warriors and the former D1, D2 stars against regular people in the park. You want to see if the regular people can knock off the team that should clearly win. But it isn't because of excellent gameplay. It's once again, you're tied more into am I going to see something impossible happen?
The car crash. You're waiting on the crash to happen. That's what it is. It's everything. What's alluring about March Madness is everything but the actual basketball on the floor. I think that's like the real essence of my tweet and what I was getting at. I'm not turning this on to watch high quality hoops. I'm turning this on because potentially a team could knock off a mid-major or whatever. That type of
You're
thing.
watching 32 Super Bowl parties at once.
Exactly. That's exactly.
You're actually watching 32 Super Bowl parties at once and just there for the vibes and for the bets and for the
we'll
squares.
be back next week with only 16 left.
Right.
Next week with
once
8
in
left.
a lifetime, all of that going on. So, and it's funny because when you do get those high quality games, you realize that a lot of them are wars of attrition. GCU Bama, they were locking up. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, that was a great game where it was first one to like 70 or 80 wins because they were playing defense. But then you got to a point where they were just making mistakes. Like the mental fatigue was breaking them.
Yeah, it was chaotic. I want to say Grand Canyon had 2 assists in the entire second half. It was one-on-one ball. It was all types of stuff was going on. So I mean, I guess it's fun, but I'm not tuning in to watch high quality hoops. That's
right. Exactly. Now, where I will say I have seen high quality hoops is in women's March Madness. And what I've been seeing over the few years, like where I've been really, really tapped in to women's college basketball, like, I've been tapped into the WNBA, but just like really getting into women's college basketball, they are following the model that every other professional sports league craves and they idolize. Like, that's like their perfect model where you have the major stars. You have the Caitlin Clarks of the world, Juju Watkins, Angel Reese, Hannah Hidalgo, those people that are bringing Paige Beckers, that are bringing people into the sport. And then when you get there, you realize it's not just them. Right. They are the stars. They're running the Bird Magic NBA model with women's college basketball.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Continue that thought.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, that when you're interested in something, you go see the top level guys, and next thing you know, you're watching the backup PG is also like, wait, Shorty can play a little bit too. So you need the top level. You know what? This might be a little off topic, but I just read something about marketing and products. And what's very interesting is every level, like the essentially you need to have a secondary model that will sell because say the top model is out of someone's price range or what have you. For example, Fear of God. A lot of people could not afford Fear of God. They like the style. They like the cut. So then when he comes out with Fear of God Essentials, people are buying up Essentials because it's like the middle tier. It's the example in the book that I was reading was a company had a blender that was super expensive. But in other words, if you have a high-end blender, a middle-tier blender, and a low-end blender, people are more likely to buy that middle blender and make sales because this blender is too expensive. And clearly, if this one is the cheapest, it's garbage. So I'll buy this middle one and keep it moving. So, like, you need to have multiple options. If you have that top-tier option, like a Fear of God, the designer line, it's out of people's price range and it's too expensive. But, oh, look, I have Essentials, and that's kind of the same thing, right? And it's cheaper, and then that's why things like that move. It was actually a really interesting marketing sales type of thing. But it's the same thing in the NBA and the WNBA. On the marquee, Caitlin Clark's face is there. That gets me to tune in. But now I'm appreciating the rest of the team and how they're playing basketball as well.
Exactly. And
did that kind of make sense, Jeff? Was that too
No, it did.
That was too OD?
As somebody who owns Essentials, I'm right there with you.
You know what I'm saying?
Because it's like the Fear of God is the one that you buy, that one staple. It's like the one that you want. And this is obviously talking about people who don't got it like that, like the upper class, right? Sure. Where you buying Fear of God is like me buying a tee at H&M. Like the comparable salaries and what that hit will do to you, your wallet, right? But the thing is, Essentials gets that motion because you'll see those same influencers and people who are staples in fashion and just cool people overall and everyday people rocking it and rocking it different ways. So you may say, okay, Essentials is a wave. I might try that. That's how a lot of these trends catch on. Yeah, that's how a lot of them catch on.
Really interesting, just like sales, mental, like how, marketing people and sales people are hacking people's brains. Because,
exactly.
I don't need the best blender in the world, but maybe I do need the middle tier joint, and I'll buy that one. And it was essentially this story about this company that wasn't selling any blenders. And then they came out with like a middle tier and a lower tier, and then the blender was flying off the shelf. Because then it's like, Jeff, you get, this is completely off topic, but I thought it was so interesting that because then you get like the upper class people that are like, oh, I don't want the middle blender, I want the top one.
Right. So
but if that's the only option, then it's kind of like, this blender's too expensive. But if I'm looking for a blender, I'm not going to buy the lowest tier. Oh, the middle tier is the middle tier, but I'm going to. So it was just a whole thing. But that goes into the aspect of when you see ESPN or MSG Network run a promo, Jalen Brunson is on the marquee, but like we want you to watch and come see Precious Achiuwa rotate on D and get boards too. So yeah, no doubt about it with Caitlin Clark and Juju and the rest of the gang. That's how you sell the sport, as the marquee names come in and really bring that attention.
Yeah, and when you talk about blenders, I could be here sitting talking to you about vacuums. Vacuums, bro, those high-tier vacuums, you're like, why am I going to spend $500 on a vacuum? They got enough features where you didn't even know it was possible. You didn't even know it was possible to vacuum in this way. And you got no dust left in your house with certain price tiers. But to your point, that middle tier has all the essentials that you need, plus those next-gen features that are nice to have. Then when you get to the higher tier, it's just a better build quality. And they're giving you the top-of-the-line features that you probably wouldn't normally use, but you can stunt and say that you got it. It's like, yo, my vacuum floats when it wants to go get the hard-to-reach areas. It's like, do you really need it to float? No, but I paid the extra $100 for it, right? So I definitely get you with that. And with college hoops, with women's college hoops, it's the same way. Because I'm watching, and shout out to the NCAA for stacking, for layering their men's and women's March Madness games to where when certain games end, you can flip back and forth easily and do quad boxes for men and women and be able to catch a great game in between half times and all of that. So you could have a continuous viewing experience. Because for me, I'm tuning in for the stars. And it's funny because at this level of women's college hoops, that separation between the top tier and the lower tier is evident. Like the first round, there was a lot of blowouts. There were some teams, but then those 116 matchups are way closer in women's basketball than men's. because of the fundamentally sound nature and the way that they hoop. Bro, I don't know if I think I could count on one hand the amount of missed free throws that I saw in every women's basketball game that I watched. Like, do you send them to the line? You're going to have to figure out the next play because you might as well count those two.
They're
and
skilled.
Just the way they score, all of them, super, super skilled. And it's high-level hoops. Like, there's some people who will say, oh, I need running up and gun action and dunk it and highlight, which you're not even getting all the time on the men's side. But I like to see good hoops. And great hoops is what I was seeing. And to your point about that gateway to the other stars, I'm looking for the main stars, and I'm finding future stars like Kiki Ariafin, who dropped 44 points in that game for Stanford. Audi Crooks, great basketball name, even better rap name. Rap name, dropping 40. And then they're facing marquee teams, and the way they book this almost like wrestling, right? Where it's like you get the contenders playing against each other and great teams. Jada Walker, who was like game time in the fourth quarter of a game for Baylor, right after it. And then you find out the stories behind these women, and it just draws you in. So I'd already said before the tournament, the star power in women's hoops far exceeds the men's. I know I can rattle off 15 names for you in the women's. I'm just learning. Taxman, I was riding with Taxman, Golki. And that's just because we like to see the story, right? And I'm learning about more and more people now. But we talk about high-level hoops. I think it's in women's March Madness right now.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we laid it out. It's that the reason the reason a lot of the things you just laid out is purely because of the high-level superstars that are drawing you in to watch these games. And then that's how you become a fan of things. That's how you find other actors that you like. Leonardo DiCaprio brought you into the movie theater, but you seeing another dude go crazy, you're like, yo, who is this dude? I like this dude. It's the same thing across the board in multiple different things. That's why Caitlin Clark is so important. That's why Juju Watkins is so important to the women's game. Exactly.
We talk about that star power in women's hoops. We got to talk about this story that dropped yesterday. Caitlin Clark gets a $5 million offer from Ice Cube and the BIG3 to play in the BIG3 before she debuts in the WNBA. She's already declared for the WNBA draft. The way it's set up, it would be $5 million essentially for 10 games, and those last two may conflict with. I'm sure the Indiana. I think the Fever are choosing her number one. I'll go out on a limb, right? But whatever games, those last two games would be the only conflict. So in essence, 8-ish games for $5 million. I've heard a lot of debate about this and conversation. What do you think about this offer that Ice Cube made?
Yeah, first of all, I think I'll jump right into exactly what I think should happen.
Yes,
if Caitlin can get to the WNBA and they have no problem with her doing this, then yes, I think she should do it. I think it'd be fun, and selfishly, I would say you should take that money because the amount of money, I mean, she's going to be making a ton of money off the court. Like, there's going to be tons of deals. For like, people are bringing up the WNBA salary being $350K. That shit is irrelevant. She can play for free in the WNBA. That's just going to be a vessel for her to create a bunch of money off the court with Nike and the rest of the gang, right? State Farm. We see her doing those commercials. But it would be interesting to see her play against men for this amount of money and not have it really conflict with the WNBA. Now, I think people, let's be honest, Jeff, I think people are tap dancing around the like, can she actually compete with the dudes in the BIG3? Like, from an actual hooping
NBA
standpoint.
stars, yeah.
Yes, like, no one really ever, people don't want to say nothing crazy and get out of pocket, but the half-court game is also very interesting. I mean, she's going to be playing all perimeter for the most part. I don't really see her doing too much down by the basket, but I'm not saying she wouldn't give that a try. It's a really interesting thing when it comes to the actual hoops. Now, if we're talking about a marketing thing for Ice Cube and the BIG3, it's a win-win because there's a high chance that she doesn't take it, but it was out there. She offered the money, and it's a way for BIG3 to be talked about like we're talking about it right now, and it's a way for Ice Cube to say, hey, I'm just trying to get the best talent, the best eyeballs in here around the big three, and I'm giving a woman an opportunity to compete against potentially the opposite sex that a lot of people would be interested in tuning in to see. So
Right.
it's interesting. There's a lot of dynamics with this because I wonder, like, would people would try to go at her in this? Like, there's a lot.
100%.
There's a lot a dynamic that makes this very. I'm gonna tell you this. How about this? Like, let's just call it this. I'll watch. Let her show up to the big. I've never watched the Big Three game in my life. I would watch the Big Three if Caitlin Clark was out there running point guard with 5 other males on the floor for 20x her salary for 8 games. That's going to be in the WNBA. I think it'd be interesting. Now, is the WNBA going to allow it? I think that's the semantics thing, because that's why it's genius from Ice Cube, right? If he knows the WNBA is not going to let her do this, he could have said 20 million.
Right.
Right. He could have said any number he wanted because she's never going to pick the Big Three over the WNBA. But I think it's very interesting. Is it risky? Sure. The injury potential as well is there. A lot of different things, but personally, if she gets the yes from the WNBA and could still do everything she wants to do with WNBA, get drafted, be number 1, go ahead and start the season and participate in the WNBA, I think to not tap dance around, I think what a lot of people are tap dancing around, if you want to move the women's game forward and we talk about how competitive and how good the basketball game is, if she were to do really well against men in the Big Three in the half court, I think that would say a lot about the women's game of basketball.
Right.
So it would be interesting. I would watch. Let's see how it shakes. But something tells me the WNBA is not going to let her play. The NBA runs the WNBA.
Right.
The Big Three is competition with the NBA.
Right.
Why? There's no positive in letting her play in the Big Three, but it would be interesting to see.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely feel you on that, Bob. For me, it's definitely, to me, this is a strategic clout chase by Ice Cube, right?
For sure.
And I call it a clout chase because that's what businesses do. They chase the clout of people who have a following in order to bring more eyeballs and to pay for their services so that you expand the name recognition in the brand that you're promoting, right? So with the Big Three, this is also a little bit petty towards the NBA because there was a probe on the NBA because they were pressuring players, allegedly saying that they were pressuring players and partners and advertisers not to rock with the Big Three. So they know this is a chess move, right? We offer Caitlin Clark $5 million. If y'all do anything to try to stifle her, if she wants to do it, then it proves that probe right. And now they can probably get even more money from you or they got to go into a settlement. I think for the spectacle wise, I think it works. Caitlin Clark has practiced against men, has played on teams, hooping against men. This ain't nothing new. And also, with the way she's being exalted in the media, they've already created a dynamic where, you know, people on social, people in general are haters. They're going to want to see her fail. And there's this swelling sense of, is she entitled? Does she really deserve it? Yeah, she's breaking every single record. But there's other people who've actually won titles in college that should be getting certain shine too. And we get into these conversations. So she's almost in a league like the WNBA that has been developing those villains in every team. She would be one coming in where people would want to see her fail or would want to actively root against her. And that's where you get a lot of the growing of the fan base and the competition. Like I was laughing last year during the WNBA finals when I saw people trying to discredit Stewie because they lost the finals. And I said, yo, you know, we've advanced in a society where y'all are irrationally critiquing women's hoops like y'all do the NBA. Like I was like, it's messed up, but I think we've crossed the Rubicon in a positive direction because people are actually invested in the game. Do I think she's gonna do it? No. I think as a WNBA rookie, you don't want to put in jeopardy anything that you may have towards building a WNBA foundation. There's also, I saw this sentiment and I do agree, there's also something to say about taking that $5 million and enticing former WNBA stars to put their own Big Three team together. Then we get that like that episode of A Different World or Martin where they had to hoop against Lisa Leslie. I think it was Martin when they had to hoop against Lisa Leslie and them. Yeah. Like then you get something like that, but with professional athletes who have been proven. So I do think if Ice Cube may be on to something. If he doesn't get Caitlin Clark, see if you could get some of the former WNBA stars to get a Big 3 team, and then we have that battle of the sexes, which will finally draw viewers like you who probably never watched a Big 3 game, but would watch the spectacle. Because Big 3 is selling a spectacle. Former hoopers hooping against each other that you used to love and admire. Now you're talking about the best of the WNBA legends versus the best of the NBA legends that are going to hoop in the Big 3. I think it's something worth watching.
Yeah, I think overall, there's more downside to this for Caitlin than upside because the only upside is the $5 million, and she's going to make plenty of money off the court. So it's just one of those risk reward type of things. I think overall, there's more negative to be had here than positive gained outside of the $5 million.
I'd love to see it if they moved, because part of the selling point I think is that it happens during the summers, where the WNBA players usually go overseas to go hoop. And because of the Brittany Griner situation and just the fact that you got to go work another job in order to play professionally to supplement the salary that you're making stateside, maybe it is something where you get those WNBA stars, you give them mad bread to stay here and hoop in a spectacle as opposed to having to go overseas, right? Like there's different ways that it can go, but I do think, I will agree with you. I don't think you put your WNBA rookiedom in jeopardy for a spectacle. At least not now. Like, you don't got to be doing that. You don't got to be doing that now. See here in 15 years. 15 years, that by that time, you might get a real spectacle, right? Caitlin Clark going to hoop with the Big 3, cashing in her Big 3 contract 15 years later. That might be something, but I don't think now. I don't think so.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, Sean, one thing that we do in our business when we're getting these opportunities, we're on these TV screens, in general, we bet on ourselves. Shouldn't do that if you're a professional athlete, right? And we got to get into these scandals that are popping. We were talking about this earlier. We had to hold you. Told me, like, hold it up because you already saw.
We was getting ready to record. We were about to record the pod before the pod.
Right. I'm just like, I don't know when to record this with you because I feel like my phone is going to go off and I'm actively looking at my phone because this is how many betting scandals have proliferated on our streets in the last week, right? You went from JB Bickerstaff saying that dude was approaching them, trying to threaten them on some betting stuff. Tyrese Halliburton saying that he felt like a prop bet. We've had this constant conversation with gambling Twitter on the NBA's neck anytime they phantom take a rebound away or don't credit an assist or something like that. But now it's finally hit the fan with professional athletes, starting with Shohei Ohtani and this whole situation with his interpreter, where he's saying that the interpreter was interpreting different stuff, which gotta be a nightmare scenario for someone in a different country where you're saying, if anybody out there who's watching Shogun, you would definitely feel this, where you are trying to get translated, you're trying to convey a message, and you are shook that they are gonna say something completely different other than what you're actually saying. But this is what we're being sold, that his interpreter was lying about him paying off the debts, came clean to him and said, well, I actually used your money to pay off these debts. Now he's fired. Now there's a cloud over Shohei, whether or not he was actually involved in that. He says that he wasn't. Then, to me, the more interesting one was Johntay Porter, Michael Porter Jr.'s brother, who, I cannot believe I'm saying this, is being accused of point shaving. Like, we joked, how many times have we joked about point shaving? And it's actually, we're seeing it where, for those of y'all who don't know, there's been 2 instances. The NBA tracks a regularity on bets to see if there's anything fishy going on. 2 separate instances, Johntay played 4 minutes or less in a game. Due to the Raptors' string of injuries, he's somebody who doesn't really normally get time. He's on a minimum salary, a 2-way contract with the Raptors. Doesn't really get time. So when you have 6 people out, you're going to get time and the books put you on for a certain amount of over-unders, points, rebounds, assists. Just so happened to get in the game, doesn't hit overs, hits all his unders, and then leaves the game not to return. And did that in 2 separate occasions. And the 2 separate occasions he did that, his props were the biggest money maker. His unders were the biggest money makers those nights. NBA saw that and said, okay, we got to check this out. We don't know what happened. That's the extent of what we happened. But Sean, what are you seeing? How's the gambling world reacted? And what are you seeing? What are your thoughts on all of this stuff popping up?
Yeah, well, let's be clear. These are 2 completely different things.
Right.
Shohei Ohtani and his interpreter, whoever was gambling, someone was gambling over there, and money was coming out of Shohei's account and going to
gambling and losing.
Bookmaker.
Let's be
Gambling
clear.
and losing.
They was that money because if they was winning, we wouldn't have heard about this. Shohei would have been quiet. They wouldn't have heard nothing about this if they was winning. That's the biggest one. They was losing. A whole lot of losing.
Big dollars. And but I do want to be clear how different these 2 things are.
Mm-hmm.
Shohei or his interpreter, whoever was gambling, I could care less personally if an athlete is betting on football on Sunday and he plays for the Dodgers. Who gives a fuck about that? That's my opinion. I don't care about that. Now, being in California and it being illegal is a completely different thing. Dealing with a completely illegal bookmaking operation is completely different. But that athlete and interpreter, whoever, is dealing with a completely different thing. There's no evidence of them betting on baseball or on the Dodgers or on their personal stuff. They were betting on sports in general. What Johntay Porter was doing is purely messing with the integrity of NBA basketball games like Donaghy, and that can absolutely not happen.
Exactly.
Period, point blank. You're actually fucking with the randomness of live sports and games. That's why, like, some people say, why wouldn't someone be able to, why aren't players allowed to bet on their own overs? It's like, yeah, well, if I on an over 3 prop, you think I'm making an extra pass? I'm putting that bitch up. Nope. That's why there's a difference here, right? So when we talk about point shaving on games versus point shaving on your own personal player props, it's a completely, you're fixing a market. Those other guys with the Dodgers were gambling. These guys are actually communicating and fixing a market, consciously going out and doing things that were going to make them money and changing the aspect of basketball games. So, yeah, I just wanted to clear that up on the differences there. But, yeah, I mean, overall, Johntay in the NBA, Johntay needs to be made an example of. I don't think – I'm talking
if this is the case.
If this is the case, allegedly.
Right.
Allegedly, I'm talking lifetime ban, never to be heard from again, because the cat has been let out of the box. And the amount of money that the NBA would have to turn down now with these sports betting companies is so massive that I'm not sure they're looking to do that.
Right.
This is a business at the end of the day. This is entertainment. So Silver, the amount of money that Silver and the gang across all leagues have coming in, they're just going to figure out a way to make it so dangerous that you would never think about betting on sports, because then you'll never play, you'll never be heard from again. You lose out on millions of dollars. Jeff, I think the key here is, especially with the player props, and why people are talking about removing college player props, is the barrier of entry to fix these markets is so low now. They're hanging props on a guy at Valparaiso in Indiana. You understand what I'm saying? Like, that guy is so easily contacted and potentially pulled into a situation.
Exactly.
That he can be influenced very easily. Before all these prop markets and that stuff was out here, first of all, you had to fix a whole game. It's easy for a point guard not to take any threes. Like, that's 100%. Easy to do, right? Like, so that it's easy for guys not to grab rebounds. Does it look fishy? Sure. But, like, that type of stuff is a lot easier than trying to manipulate the entire game to keep a game to keep a game within 5 points. Like, that's very difficult to do. The prop market is very, very different. especially when we're talking about like even the guys keeping score here for the NHL on shots. Like these are regular dudes just bookmaking. Like,
Right.
oh, that's a shot. Yeah, sure. But like, hey, for an extra 10, make sure if it looks like a shot or a save, I need it to be a shot and a save. Like
Right.
that, the entry level to talk to guys like that is so low. That's where this stuff gets a little spicy. But I will say this, it does seem like a lot of these guys are just so stupid. The fact that you're wiring millions of dollars out of Shohei Ohtani's personal account to a known bookmaker is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah,
The
you
fact
should
that
at least know the rules.
you
if
should
you're in
at
the
least
country
be
before
like
that. Something
yeah,
like that.
like dude,
What do we have shell companies for? What do we
Right,
have
like,
shell
what are
companies
we
for? What do we
doing,
have?
right?
We losing recipes show. We don't got weed carriers anymore. Ever since weed was legalized, the concept of the weed carrier
Crazy.
has been completely eliminated from the culture, bro. Like you gotta have somebody that's willing to facilitate that, to take the hit and not have as much exposure as Shohei Ohtani. And
Right.
and here's the other thing. Shohei, I can understand. He make that type of money where maybe 4.5 mil he don't notice.
Right.
Like maybe he that type of rich where he's not in his Chase account every day. Like, yo, do I still got this money? But that's still nuts because eventually someone is going to find out and ask a question, and now we here.
Right, exactly. Like what makes you think people betting $10,000-$20,000 on Johntay Porter unders is not going to be suspicious across the board?
Bro.
Like it just doesn't make any sense. And then you're leaving the game with eye inflammation and all types of
My
shit.
eyes acted up.
Yeah, and hey, for me and you, for guys being on TV, when your eyes act up, it is kind of rough. I ain't gonna hold you.
I mean, yeah, if you're staring at a camera and doing all of that, you know what I mean?
But
Like,
yes.
yeah, that makes sense, but
Yeah, there's a lot
Other
of stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff still to come out on the Johntay and Shohei thing. My gut feeling, Jeff, and I've been outside of when I'm breaking down games and going through analytics that way. I'm a big time feel dude and gut guy. My gut tells me something's not adding up about the whole Shohei Ohtani thing. Like that's just my gut. I don't know anything. I'm not really, because this is completely different for me. I actually don't care about the Shohei thing because it's not like what Johntay is doing. I don't care. I don't care if Shohei Ohtani is betting $10 million a week on NFL. Who cares? I could care less. The thing with Johntay is a bigger story for me than the Shohei thing. But the reason the Shohei thing is massive is because if he does know or was involved, then we're talking about missing out on the biggest superstar in baseball for a potential season, and the MLB can't have that. The NBA could shoot Johntay into the sun, and and nothing would happen, right? But the MLB can't have Shohei miss the entire season.
he's too big to fail. We're back in the Great Recession. This is the Great Recession of MLB. Shohei Ohtani is literally too big to fail. Somebody got to fall on the sword. The interpreter, his man, fell on the sword. And when I read an article on ESPN where they spoke about the relationship between his interpreter and Shohei and his interpreter. Bro, this sounds like like a consigliere, or at the very least, like if you watch wrestling, this is his Paul Heyman. The guy that does everything, that makes sure his travel secure. He's with him in the dugout. He don't move unless his interpreter is with him.
Yeah.
That's like, it's almost like royalty type situation. Like he's the hand of the king. He's the hand of the king. And for it to go from the hand to, yo, this dude was stealing from me, that's when people like me and you are looking and saying, I see some smoke. I feel some heat. It might be a fire or two under there. It might just be a fire under two. And I gotta show you this, right? This is what's going to happen now with players and prop betting and all of this. When the Twitter and the NBA, the social investigators get onto it, this was hilarious. They were like, look at Jontay's face after he hits this three, right? You saw this? Yeah, look at his face. He like, they go showing up. He's like, yeah, this is what people are saying. Like, you start seeing the 50 Cent memes, whatever they said he did that shit. And you know This is how investigative people get when we talk about even just tracking prop bets. I've seen it countless times where somebody will get discredited a rebound. People will clip it up and say, which rebound was it that you took away? There's no way you could take away this rebound. And then it gets changed, right?
Yeah.
Once people start investigating and start putting the breadcrumbs together, this is a Pandora's box they can't close. So I agree with you. Whatever they got to do, if they find anything, he's got to be a sacrificial lamb. And when you talk about those barriers of entry, right? Like those barriers are lowered. I'm of the opinion that for certain things, there should be elevated barriers of resistance. Anything that can be addictive, anything that can harm yourself or others, like overuse, like alcohol, right? So you have a barrier of resistance with age, cigarettes, or owning a car, owning a gun. You should have something that at least some type of qualification or something that says that you are mature enough to do it. And we've lowered this barrier of entry and this barrier of resistance for sports betting to now it's a click of the phone. It's a click on the app and we can bet. And we tell people to bet responsibly and we do all of this. But before, when you only could go to 2 cities or offshore to bet, as opposed to now you get situations where a guy who is making the league minimum, $415,000, you telling him he could possibly make that salary in one night if certain people are betting that money or he puts that money down. Everybody may not take it, but some may. And I'm not saying that he did or didn't. It's all alleged. I don't know. But if people in his situation could be enticed to do that. So, like, to your point, the NBA is going to have to get on this and get on this ASAP because you want to stop the slippery slope before it becomes an avalanche. Once it becomes an avalanche, then we're in Black Sox scandal territory. And where do we go from it? Soccer, world football was dealing with that. You know, they were dealing with betting scandals. Now, League Pass is going to let you prop bet while you watch the game from the app. Bro, I don't know. And I've heard people dooming and glooming and saying that we're headed towards an epidemic or an addiction or a crisis. It definitely feels like first hit's on me, second hit you got to pay for with a lot of this gambling stuff. And I don't know. I'm hoping that they can put a lid on it before, but we don't know. We really don't know. So,
yeah, I mean, this is America. This is capitalism. This is pure capitalism. It's your responsibility to take care of yourself. At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. And yes, there is, the barrier of entry stuff is very real, and there isn't a barrier of entry. I mean, you have to be 18, obviously, to bet
right,
sports.
Right.
But when we start talking about is stuff addictive, sports gambling, just like anything else, is addictive. You just have to be disciplined and figure out a way to maneuver that way.
Right. That's why we would tell you. We tell you on MSG. We tell you everywhere else. Lunch money, not rent money. Money that you can afford to lose, that you're not going to be packing your pockets. Bro, when I would go to Vegas, right? When I would go to Vegas and I play blackjack, I play craps, I play all of that. I had a set amount. And I said, I had a set amount, then I had the emergency amount just in case maybe I was hot and I got caught out there and I was like, yo, this is like the limit break of my reserve. Once that's gone, I'm enjoying Vegas. I don't want no parts of that. You literally got to know when to hold them and when to fold them. Yeah. I think that's where the discipline starts. Is you got to be real with yourself. And this is not an investment. This is a game. This is not a money-making opportunity. For the average person, it should not be. It's just fun. And treat it like that. The same way you would go to a concert and drop X amount of bread. Treat it like that. Because when we say gamble responsibly, we're not just saying that like, the fast talking Surgeon General at the end of a sentence, like, make all this blah blah. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're not, I think there's, because I've definitely had profitable years sports betting, right? So I think it's.
And you also in this, so you
take
you
it. Yes, I'm in it on the daily.
That talented 10% that I'm not talking about, but yeah,
I'm in it on the daily. It's just it's not a game. It's not to be messed around with. You have to take it seriously. If you're trying to make a profit, it's a very serious business. But yeah, you just got to know what you're trying to get out of. If you're trying to make money, You have to take it extremely seriously and be diligent and be disciplined. But if you're just trying to mess around, have some fun, then go about it that way. Throw a little bucks you can afford to lose, and then enjoy yourself at the Garden and hope for Donte DiVincenzo to hit 8 threes. That's it.
Man, you want to talk about missing out on some ladders. Donte DiVincenzo ladders has been money this season.
He been going crazy, man.
God bless whoever of y'all caught the ladders when he broke the record. Or if one of y'all was bold enough to go ladders on Deuce against the Raptors.
Going crazy.
You want to talk about lunch money, dude. Drinks are on you. Drinks are definitely on you. But one group of people who cannot count on making money on one turn of pitch and toss it and gambling it away is that NBA Western Conference. Okay? We're going to talk about them right now because the NBA has been exciting as we get down to the final 10 games, Sean. And one thing that I've seen is this NBA Western Conference. We're looking at the standings right now. As of now, we've got 6 teams vying for 5 spots. You got the surging Rockets. They have gone 10 straight, beating OKC the other night, gone 10 straight. Warriors winning, Lakers winning 5 in a row. The Mavericks trying to solidify that final seed. What have you been seeing, Sean? I want to know, who do you think first off is going to lock in out of these 5? Jazz are just here because I haven't moved down the street yet. Let me get. And we can even Pelicans. Pelicans in there because shout out to Zion killing in his since the All-Star break and helping propel the Pelicans to 5th. But out of these teams right here, who do you think is going to lock a guaranteed playoff spot? Who can you pencil and say guaranteed they're going to be top 6?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because we're looking at 11 teams here in the West that could potentially make the play-in. So essentially, I know you got 1 got to go on the screen, 3 got to go. Just to get to the playoffs, right? Like if we're not talking about the play-in, 3 of these teams got to come off the board when we start talking about the actual playoffs. So yeah, I mean the West has been awesome. I think the Pelicans are in. I'm not worried about the Pelicans. I think they're, I guess quietly if you haven't been paying attention, but they have been one of the best teams in the NBA. I'm talking Boston, I'm talking Nuggets, and I'm talking Pelicans. Post All-Star break, they have been that good. Number 2 in defense last 10 games. They have been sensational. Zion at the point has been really good, and they've won 2 of 3 without Brandon Ingram. He went down. They're still continuing to roll. Let's see what happens with BI coming down here down the stretch. But I think the Pelicans are in. I like the Mavericks. I think they're in. If I had to pick 2, so I tweeted out a while ago, I don't want to see Suns, Mavericks, Lakers, Warriors in the play-in, but I do want to see Suns, Mavericks, Warriors, and Lakers in the play-in because I think that would be sensational ball or play-in ball. But overall, I think the 2 teams out are going to be the Kings and the Warriors. I don't believe the Rockets.
When you say out, you mean that we'll lose in the play-in.
We'll lose in the play-in, yeah. I think the Rockets have made a push here that's been very impressive. I think they're going to run out of gas. I think the Warriors are going to hang on overall, but you could swap out. Also, for those who don't know, anyone that's ever landed in the 10 slot, East or West in the play-in has never made the playoffs since its inception. So no team has been to 10 and won 2 games in a row to get into the playoffs on the road. It hasn't happened yet. So with how the Warriors have been playing, with how the Rockets have been playing all year long, I'd have to knock one of those 2 dudes out, whoever finishes in the 10. And then I'm going to go with the Kings. I think the Kings and the Warriors are going to be the 2 teams out of the playoffs. I gave out Kings to miss the playoffs plus 260 like last month. I still think if they get in a situation in the play-in where they have to play the Suns in Phoenix, I like the Suns. And then if they have to welcome the Lakers, even if it's going to be in Sacramento, give me LeBron and Anthony Davis in that 1-game playoff type atmosphere to get in to the March, the June madness, the May madness. That is the NBA. That is the NBA playoffs. I just like LeBron and AD and Austin Reeves and the rest of those guys in that situation. So I'll take those 2 teams to not make the playoffs. But I believe the play-in is going to be that top 10. I think the Rockets are going to run out of gas.
Yeah, and shout out to Jalen Green. Last 7 games, he's been going absolutely insane. 37-9-7, 37-6-3, 41-4-4. Like, he's been going off in these last games, putting a highlight reel together during this win streak that can rival a few in the NBA this season. So definitely shout out to them. I do think this is how it's going to end up. I look at that 7 through 10 right now, and I'm looking at the Kings, I'm looking at the Lakers and the Warriors. It's a lot of unseriousness, man. It's a lot. Like the Suns, bro, I don't know what they're waiting for. It's like they innovate losing. They lose in different sorts of ways. You have these three major players, and something happens. They collapse. They can't keep a lead. They lose to what we think are inferior teams. But then we got to ask, are they the inferior team? Who's the imaginary players on here? The Warriors, are they on the decline, and they're the ones that don't know yet? And they're fighting. They have all the looks of a dynasty fighting to hold on to their crown city. And I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. I think for them to guarantee getting out of the playoffs, they got to get 7 or 8. They need 2 chances. We don't know if Draymond going to be around. You saw he was ready to take PTO last night against the Magic. He took PTO last night against the Magic 4 minutes in, and it looked like I saw some people on social saying that from warm-ups they knew he was out of there early. He was like, yo, he ain't feeling this. He about to get out of here. But they've had so much surrounding their season. I've seen Warriors fans complaining about Kerr unlike no other season in his rotations and what he's doing with pods versus play. Are you playing Kuminga? Him, that whole saga. Are you going to play Moses Moody? Like all these conflicts that they have in their group. I don't know they're going to have it. I don't know if they're going to make it. Meanwhile, the Lakers quietly have won 5 in a row. No matter who they put on the floor, it seems like they're rounding into form. And if it's one person out of this 5 that we see that's in play-in contention that I will count on is LeBron. Because you could tell he's at the point in his career where he ain't getting knocked out. He's getting to the dance one way or another. He ain't getting knocked out. He's preserving his body just for this moment if they have to linger on in the play-in. And then, you look at it, they have 73 games. So they have, 9 games to go? They have 9 games to go, and they're 2 games out of the 7th spot, 2.5 out of the 6th spot. Depending on how their health looks and their remaining strength of schedule, they might be able to make one more run to get out of the play-in and into the top 6. And at this point, anything is possible with these teams, because I see it. The Pelicans, they've had a top 5 record since January 1st. They've had a top 5 winning percentage, I should say, since January 1st. It feels like they figured it out. So I wouldn't even count them amongst everybody else, but I could see any of these teams shit in the bed and getting into the play and then getting in a situation where they need to win 2 to get out.
I'm going to tell you this. Whoever is the 8 is catching an L, and probably a sweep. 4-1, gentleman sweep. If they have to play Denver. Whoever it is needs to get to the 7 so they can play Oklahoma City in Oklahoma City. Yeah. That's where this shakes, right? Like, we're trying to line up with Oklahoma City, period, point blank. I do not want to play the Denver Nuggets at all. So if you could somehow get to that 7 slot or get to that 8 slot and play that one game, get in and get the 7, now we actually got at least a chance to win a round. And it's a lot less spooky. Do I think you even beat the Thunder? I don't know. I think it is sus, but the Lakers' size against the Thunder inside would give them a lot of trouble. Like, the Thunder aren't very big. They have no size, right? That's the one knock on the Oklahoma City Thunder. So if the Nuggets can hold on to the 1, it looks like they may. But that's tight coming down the stretch here with Minnesota and the Thunder. But you just want to avoid the Nuggets, and then you have a real chance to win a first-round series if you're the Suns, if you're the Lakers. And that's where it gets interesting from a gambling standpoint, because I think you're going to get some really interesting prices on, Timberwolves Lakers, because everybody's going to want to bet the Lakers. But like flat out, especially with no Karl Anthony Towns, that's where it gets really interesting. Like for me, I can't wait to see some of these prices that are going to be around the Miami Heat. I'm ready to fade the Miami Heat in a 7-game series. I actually can't wait. To fade the Miami Heat in a 7-game series, right? So they're going to be in the 7. Like the Bucks are beating them, in my opinion, but I'm not even like, I would love to see Knicks Heat. People wouldn't respect the Knicks. They'd give some bullshit price. And I'm backing the Knicks all day in that type of spot. Right now, this is a hot take. I've said this on multiple outlets, though. In a 7-game series, right now, for me, the Magic are more spooky than the Miami Heat. That's how I feel about the Miami Heat right now. They haven't put it together. They sorely miss Kevin Love. So I'm not high on the Miami Heat, but this is where it starts getting interesting in gambling because you're going to get some big-name matchups against some teams that have been proven all year long with the Thunder, with the Minnesota Timberwolves. And they're going to be like, okay, you like the Lakers, or you like Timberwolves so much? Here's a little discounted price for you. Go ahead and bet it because there's going to be tons of money coming in on the Lakers and those type of guys.
Yeah. I definitely think it's going to be interesting. The West is going to be, to me, for that opening round, play into the first round is going to be the conference to watch because you have so many good teams bunched up together to where now it's just all about positioning, bro. It's just all about positioning, who's going to match up with who. And I'm with you. I want no parts of whoever's the number 1 seed. If I'm in 7 through 10, I want no parts. Whoever's going to be in the number 1 seed. It looks like it's going to be Denver, but then here's the rub. Depending on how the season ends, if Denver ends up number 2, then if you're a 7th, 8th seed, you might tank. You might tank that first game if Denver's not number 1 to get to Minnesota or OKC.
That's when it starts getting crazy. Like
right.
the different type of angles you can attack it at because you want to avoid the Denver Nuggets at all costs. That's why I think it's so important for the Knicks to get the 3, which they just took over, because then you avoid the Boston Celtics on their side. The only time you would ever see Boston is in the Eastern Conference Finals. And then it's like, let's really lock in and get busy. And that gives the guys more time to get cohesive with OG coming back and Julius Randle coming back. That's why it's so important for the Knicks, in my opinion, to get that 3 seed because Jeff, you've been watching every game like me. The Knicks have had a hard time with Orlando all year long. I don't want the Knicks to play the Magic. I don't care how young they are, whatever. They're deep. They play defense. They're physical. And they got a guy on the block that can get you 25 in Paolo Banchero, right? So if you can avoid the Magic in round 1 and get that 3 and play the Pacers or play someone like that in the 6 or Miami, give me Miami. I'd much rather play those squads, in my opinion, in the first round, stay out of that side of the bracket of the Boston Celtics and see how deep you can push it there.
Yeah, and we going right into the Knicks talk, like Shaw says. We're super tapped into the Knicks, and I love your perspective on the top 3 seed. I'm even bullish on trying to get to the 2 seed. 2-3 is where I think that they need to lock in order to have the clearest path on paper to the NBA Finals. They had a path last year, ran into the Heat, ran out of gas at the end. Here's the reason why I wouldn't want to face the Heat or Orlando. As much as a Knicks fan, I would love to get revenge on the Heat and continue this Peter versus the chicken rivalry that we have, this generational rivalry. They play physical. Julius got injured against the Heat. It just seems like coincidentally, Knicks get injuries when they play the Heat. You got Julius coming back off injury, OG coming back off injury, Mitch, who made his return against the Raptors last night and looked great for someone who ain't playing 50 games. There was definitely a point in the game where he had that look like, damn, y'all run a lot now. Back when I was we was a little bit more half court. Now y'all running doing the paces. Where y'all up the pace? But for someone who ain't played in 3 months, he looked good. And I don't want them to get into a super physical game with somebody who can match their physicality in round one when you're going to have players who need to ramp up a bit. The Magic haven't really seen the Knicks in full strength. I don't know if they're going to get there. I don't know if they're going to get there given what everybody's going through, but I do agree with you. If I had to choose, I think Orlando's primed for the taking. I do think we don't know if they're going to show up. We don't know if they're going to, how they're going to play as young players. Sometimes they defy, they don't know that they're young and they play like vets, or sometimes the moment is too large for them. The Magic have been dope at home. You can't deny them that. Their home record right now is 25-11. That's a solid record. So they have made the Magic Kingdom a little spooky for people coming in. But the thing I will tell you, man, about this top 3 seed, and I've been consistent on this, Sean. The Knicks gave the whole league 45 days. They gave the league 45 days, 6 weeks, and 3 days to put them out, to put them in the dirt when they had all those injuries. And they were able to maintain the same seed as when Julius and OG and Mitch had already been out. But when those two went down, they were able to maintain the seed and now have been able to get a higher seed as of the games last night, right? Now they're in a position where they have a favorable schedule. They're ramping up their players. They're coming back. I don't think the Knicks have been, if according to shout out DJ Zulo, they've had the 4th best winning percentage in the NBA since January 1st. And if you're counting, that's after a trade, that's after injuries, that's after having to play Taj Gibson, having to get Taj Gibson off of his marathon run to come hoop 30 plus minutes off the couch. That's doing all of these things. And now the Knicks are back together, man, and they're getting closer to being 100%. I think they are the team no one wants to see in the East. At full strength, no one wants them. They are the stay away. Whatever seed they are, stay away. Because I'll tell you this, Sean, the Cavs definitely see these guys. If I'm the Cavs brass, I am hoping that the numbers fall where they avoid the Knicks in the first round, because I haven't seen the Knicks take a soul of a team like this in a long time. Like, the lights are too bright are an understatement. The game is too big. The game is too big. After that last game in Cleveland, they don't want to see them. And I know everybody below don't want to really see them either.
Yeah, they want nothing to do with them. I'm starting to get a little worried about Julius. I will say that. We're now starting to push what? There's 10, 11 games left, 12 games left, depending on what squad you're rooting for or looking at. And we haven't gotten any full contact practice from Julius. Now, the Knicks are a very hush-hush organization on what's going on, but there has been no reports of Julius being in full contact practice. Now, we need, if you're a guy that has rooting interest in the Knicks, you need that time for him to get back right. Because, hey, it was clear. Mitch Robinson impacted a lot of plays in his first game back, but he's got to get in shape. Mm-hmm. He's clearly a little overweight, which is perfectly fine for a guy that hasn't played in 50 games. No problem at all. I could care less about that. He just needs the time to get back.
Yeah.
I would hate to see Julius show up like the second round. You understand what I'm saying? Like, that would be really tough to reintegrate him in the second round of the playoffs. So I'm starting to get a little worried, and this is no inside information or none of that, but there hasn't been reports of full contact practice. Julius is going to be back here pretty soon. He'll be back soon. We're being careful, et cetera, et cetera.
Just wait on it.
Just wait on it. And like, it happened pretty quick with Mitch, right? You hear full contact practice, questionable. Oh, he's playing. So could it happen like that for Julius? Yes. Could it happen like that for Julius? Sure. But I'm starting to get a little worried as we get closer to the end of this year. He's got to get some games under his belt before the playoffs start if he is going to come back.
Yeah, it isn't like OG where he had an upper body injury, but it didn't impact his conditioning and anything like that. You saw that with Mitch. That's why he's kind of laboring a
Right.
And
That both of them. Exactly. That's actually a really good point. Both being upper body injuries, you can get out there, run up and down.
It's like
he looks just like
fitness model type, like
Sure.
Brolic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But with OG, it was part about OG. I've seen that man bust the team's ass with one arm. So if his arm ain't really working like that, he can do everything else. He's still the plus minus god with one arm. That has to be the best testament to him whatsoever, that he was out there against Sacramento with one arm and affecting the game without being able to shoot, but could do everything else. Dunk, but you can't shoot. Like that's what's felt to me. But the thing with Julius is his physicality. And why in this instance it kind of hurts that it's his off shoulder as opposed to his shooting shoulder is when he's in the block and he's going in with his off shoulder to pull up with the left. This is the ram shoulder. This is the shoulder. So now he can become more predictable to where if he's on the left block, you already know he's doing that because he's not trying to affect his shoulder on the other side. But I do think he has enough skills to where he can alter his game and still go hard to the basket, drive and all of that. Gonna have to get out of his head because, he hurt himself on a charge or a blocking foul. So you getting over that mental hurdle. But
that's what you need. You just need the time. You need a couple games of banging with people to be like, okay, my shoulder's good. I'm gonna be ready to go. And you don't want those games to be in the playoffs.
And I know there's been debate over where they're angling to go with it. Like, is it going to be you show up first round? Is it going to be a few games before? Because you could see the logic with it, right? Where if I bring you back 3 games before the playoffs and in game 3 you pop it out again and now you're gone, I lost an opportunity to utilize you in the games that are going to really matter. But if you show up game 1 and you pop your shoulder again, and you're laboring and you're not in shape, you're doing more damage to the team than if they just chalk it up and try to go with what they have. I think he is playing again this season because they damn near had to chain him to a bed so that he wouldn't try to play now. But they're trying to be as cautious as possible, and I do agree with you. I think the top 3, I think they have a firm lock on it now. At least the first lock in a multi-lock door, they have the top lock. They got the top lock on. Now you got to bolt the rest to make sure nobody else comes through. And I think that it's been great, and they've been able to do that. And Sean, we had you here. We had you talking about everything else. Before we go, you got any action for us tonight? Anything that you're looking at?
Oh, yeah. So I gave out on the Buckets pod for the Action Network. You can go listen to the pod everywhere. I gave out Boston -16. I think they come back and destroy the Hawks just like they were doing in the first half. The lackadaisical whatever happened that second half of the game was what it was. But I think they come right back. And if depending on the injury report, keep your eye on that. I think this is a 20-point win for the Hawks versus the Hawks who are on a back-to-back, have played 4 games in 6 nights. Boston's had 2 full nights off. I know they've been in Atlanta. That Atlanta flu is real. Hopefully they stayed. They didn't have too many lemon pepper wings, and they'll be ready to go. But if they are, depending on the injury report, I think it's a big win for those guys. And I also there's only 2 games in the NBA tonight. I also like under 224.5 on Pelicans and why am I blanking? Pelicans, Bucks. I like under 224.5. Yeah. So Celtics -16, Pelicans, Bucks under 224.5.
Love it. You heard the sirens. That means it is time to get out of here. Sean gotta go. The sirens have gone off. My brother, tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, everywhere at Chicago Flow, Twitter, Instagram, man. Go check out the show, MSG Networks. It's called The Juice Bar. It's every Wednesday with my guy, Alex Monaco. We have fun on that. Check out the Buckets podcast as a part of the Action Network. NBA Daily Best Bets Monday through Friday. I'll be on live tonight recapping the 2 games, and then we'll have an episode out tomorrow. I've been showing up on NBA TV a little bit, doing NBA Bet. Stay tapped in with me on the socials, man. I'll let you know what I'm doing. I appreciate you having me, Jay.
That's what, of course, man. You already know. Don't let it be your last time. Thank you for joining us, and thank y'all for joining us on the Pickup Game. JeffJSays YouTube channel. Like, comment, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend. We're doing this weekly. Thank you so much for tapping in with us, and until next time, we'll talk to you soon.